Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to yours and mine, Cozy Corner. My name is Amanda, and on this channel, we talk about books, and more books. Hello, friends. I hope all is well. We are here today for the January 2026 wrap up. But unfortunately, I have to say that I was kind of disappointed with January. We started off strong. The very first book I read was great. It was everything I thought it would be, and then yeah, it just kind of fell through. I mean, I had some good reads, but I guess the ones that I didn't enjoy was so bad that I just feel like I just didn't get what I wanted from this month. But nevertheless, I'm not going to hold you. I'm going to go over it with you. And, you know, if you guys have read any of the books that I'm about to go over, please leave it in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Okay, guys. So the first book that we have on the list is Speed of Life by J.M. Kelly. And this is a YA contemporary fiction novel that deals with family and, basically coming of age. Now, I have my journal here, which I have not completed all of. Let me see. Yeah, no, I haven't completed it for January yet, but I do have some of my notes in here, so I am going to refer um, to my notes since that was like the very first book that I read this month. So we have twins, Crystal and Amber, who have the same goal, which is to be the first in their family to graduate high school and make something of their lives. When one gets pregnant during their junior year, the they promise to raise the baby together, but then one of them actually gets an opportunity to go to college. And so now they have to decide, okay, am I going to go to college or I'm going to stick with the original plan? Overall, I thought this was an absolute wonderful book. It was a slow pace, character driven book, and I will recommend this book to anyone who enjoys contemporary fiction. And even though it was a YA book, and y'all know how I talk about YA books, but it was just a good read. I think anyone could enjoy this particular book. Now, there wasn't too many characters, so it was easy to keep up with who's who. And truthfully, I couldn't relate to any of them because we didn't really have anything in common. However, I still enjoyed this book. I feel it's impossible not to feel some basic human connection on some level when people are going through so much. It's that thing that's called empathy. And if you don't have that, I don't really know how you function as a human being. But, you know, anywho, now I did have a lot, or I do have a lot of opinions about everyone in this book. And that is clear because I annotated the heck out of the book. I have it down there. I'm not going to worry about getting it, but I did a lot of annotation with this book. And one of the things that this book kind of taught me, which I guess I already knew, but is that you shouldn't be so quick to judge. I made certain assumptions which were incorrect, and some may say that is what the author intended to do, but I don't know that I feel that way. I think it what's come naturally to us as human beings. Sometimes we're just quick to judge. And that's what I did with some of the characters in this book, and I was wrong. Okay. But I don't know how many reviews this have on Goodreads, but I feel like it's not enough. I feel more people should read this book. I definitely think that they would enjoy it. The writing was well, and like I said, even though the pace was slow, it was perfectly slow to me. It was paced exactly how it was supposed to be, and I kind of felt like I was like that fly on the wall, just kind of being nosy, looking into someone else's life. And I love the fact that a book can make that happen, versus I'm just kind of like, is this book ever going to end? So if you get a chance, check it out. Really good book. Okay, book number two is Block Shot by Kennedy Ryan, and this is book number two in the Hoops series. This is a contemporary sports romance that can be read as a standalone. So now this wasn't the second book that I read in January. I'm not, doing them in any particular order. This was probably one of next to the last book that I actually read this month. And I'm like, thank goodness, because like I said, on I was feeling just kind of just let down by this month. I don't feel like January has been a good reading month for me, but this book, Block Shot, I'm glad I kind of ended on that note. Now, the spice level in this book was spicy. Now, now I'm the type that doesn't read a lot of spicy books. So maybe to someone else, it may not be that spicy, but I thought it was spicy. But it was so well written. I didn't care about that. I enjoyed the characters. I was rooting for them. And I cannot wait to read book number three, which is Hookshot. And I don't have that on my February TBR, but who knows? I'm probably going to slip that in, or, I don't know, maybe I will wait to March. But when I say I just really enjoyed this one, I enjoyed it. Okay, book number three, Winter Kill by C.J. Box. This is book number three in the Joe Pickett series. It is a total of 28 books, and I do plan to read each of them. They all can be read as a standalone. And this one, quick review of what this one was about. So we have Joe Pickett, who is pursuing a killer through the rugged mountains of Wyoming, and it takes a horrifying turn when his beloved foster daughter is kidnapped. Now, this book is just like book one and two. I mean, it wraps up great. It was a great read. I am enjoying Joe Pickett and his family more and more. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this on the other video, but I was telling you guys about there was a TV series that they made on like Paramount for this, but apparently it's over. I think they may have done 2 or 3 seasons, and that's it. So I'm guessing maybe the ratings of the show wasn't that great. But I tell you, thus far, I am just thoroughly enjoying the book tremendously. Okay, book number four. We have The Sweetness of Water by Nathan Harris. This is a historical fiction book that deals with race and Civil War. I tell you what, this is one of the books that really helped me through this month because, again, I don't feel like this was a great reading month for me, but I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and it was different from what I thought it was going to be. Anytime that you're reading historical fiction and you're reading about race and, during that time, and this book, I don't have it in my notes, but this was like it ended, the setting of the book started at the end of the emancipation. Okay. And, you know, you have to get prepared, or I have to get prepared sometimes when I'm getting ready to read a book like this, because I'm like, okay, I know emotionally it may take a lot, for me to kind of go through this book, but it's important. It's important. I still need to go through it. I want to go through it, and I want to be able to receive whatever it is that the author's trying to give me. But one of the things that this author did that I thought was just it was nice that he didn't have to do this. But like, of course, we know what you know terms were used to describe people, such as myself, Black people, African Americans. And, he could have used that language like a gazillion times through this book and he probably would have been accurate, but he didn't do that. He didn't do that, but he still was able to uh, show and express how people felt about, people like me who at this point were like slaves one day and then the next day all of a sudden they're not slaves. That didn't change the people's opinion of them. So I really enjoyed this book. This is one of those books that I definitely will read again in the future. And I have to say, I was talking to someone about this, and they were mentioning that they felt that it wasn't really realistic that the main character, and I cannot think of him and his wife's name, was it George? Um, yeah, I think his name was George. But him and his wife, and just the way that they treated the brothers, just treated them as human and with respect and dignity. And the person was just saying about how they didn't feel like that was completely realistic for them to, you know, treat them like that, and also to not have any friends that felt, this way about it or that way. And I'm just like, no, that's, in my opinion, no, that's possible. Just because we may live in a time and a period where you have some people who just are mean or hateful or racist, doesn't mean that everyone has to be like that. So the fact that the person found that it was absolutely shocking, to me was shocking. Like, really? I mean, it's just not possible for that. I don't know. But anyway, really enjoyed the book. Good read. Okay, so book number 5, we have Sula by Toni Morrison. And yes, I know I'm behind on reading this book, but I finally got to it. And guys, forgive me if you guys hear any noise. I have someone over there in the kitchen deciding to make all kind of noise, so forgive me for that. But we have Sula here, and this book is about the friendship of two young ladies who grew up in the hometown of Ohio, and they end up, going through some things as children. One of them ends up leaving, kind of exploring the world, going to college, and the other one stays in their hometown. She has a child and gets married, and then they come back together. Now, I know this may not be a popular opinion, but I mean, I thought the book was good. I just didn't think it was great. And the reason I didn't think it was great is it has nothing to do with the author. I think it's just me. I don't know how to, um, I don't, to me, the writing, and I don't know if this is how all her books are written, but to me, this had kind of like a lyrical writing, a little bit of flowery writing. And as I've mentioned before, that's just not my style. I don't like that type of writing. Sometimes I find myself getting so distracted and having to reread the sentence like, wait a minute, did she say this? Or wait a minute, what did they say? And to me, if I'm not completely understanding it and I'm spending my time rereading, some of the sentences over and over, I'm just not going to enjoy the book that much. And again, that's a me thing that has nothing to do with the author. Um, it's just a me thing. Now, with that being said, but to me, this book was definitely character driven. Um, if the writing style was a little different, I think I just would have ate this book up. I really would have, because my mouth was gaping open like 100 times. Like, wait a minute, they did what? Who said what? Who did? Who did this? Like, oh my goodness, the stuff that took place. Hmm. Hmm. Really, really good. And it's so crazy because I have here in my notes that um, even though this book was written in 1973, some of the stuff that she was referring to is still the same thing in 2026. And that in itself, unfortunately, isn't surprising. Um, but that stuff, still happens. Now, most of the time, if a book has kind of lyrical writing or something like that, where I wasn't with the writing style, I won't worry about rereading it. It's like, okay, I've read it. There's millions of other books. I'm moving on. But I feel like with this book, I may go back and reread it. I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence. Just something just tells me like, no, don't get rid of this book. You probably just need to read it again. Maybe as I grow as a reader, I will learn to appreciate this writing style a little bit more. Um, but one thing I noticed is with this book, Sula, and then I made a video about the book called The Fourth Child by, I believe it's Jessica Winter. They both have that kind of lyrical writing, flowery language. And I feel like these two books are like would make great book club discussion. Like, this is a book club book to me because there's just so much to discuss in here. But anyway, like I said, a good book. I just didn't think it was great, but nothing to do with the author. That's just me. Okay, book number 6. We have The Between by Hannah Reeve Dew. I know I'm messing up her name. I have been trying to practice saying Miss Dew's name. Hannah Reeve Dew. I know I'm mispronouncing it. I'm sorry, guys. But anyway, this is a horror supernatural book, and the main character, Hilton, in this book, he's saved. His life is saved by his grandmother. It was a drowning incident. And then 30 years later, he begins to suspect he was never meant to survive the accident. Now, I'm going to tell you, of course, as an adult, it is kind of hard to, um, I think, for most people, or at least speaking for myself, it is hard to kind of literally like scare us while we're reading a book. But as I'm reading this book, I noticed that I was kind of like holding my breath, just kind of like reading and like, having to take these deep breaths because it's like, girl, you're not taking in the breath in anticipation of some of the things that's happening in this book. So, needless to say, I thought it was a good book, but at the same time, it, it was a little confusing because Hilton was really not a reliable narrator. He was unreliable. You really didn't know what was going on with him. You're like, is this really happening? Is it not really happening? It was just a bit confusing. The ending, I the ending had a lot, like it left some stuff open. So if you're a person that likes for the book to end and everything is in a nice little bow tie pose off, you're not going to get that from this book. You're not going to get that. But overall, I thought it was good. I have read two other books by this author. The other two books I absolutely love those books. And this right here is a good book as well. Again, a little bit confusing. Like, I still have some parts of the book that I'm still like, okay, wait a minute now. Did that actually happen? Or am I supposed to know if that happens? I don't know. A little confusing. This is also one of those books that I'm not 100% certain if I'm going to reread it at a later date because there's some books I might just find them confusing. I have no plans to reread them at all. This one, I'm like, I don't know. So we shall see. Okay, book number 7 is The Killing Jar by Jennifer Bosworth. This is a YA sci-fi dystopian novel, and we have this young lady who um, has this past that has kept people from her, even her own mother. Kind of, keeps her at a distance because of the power that this young lady has. Eventually, she's exiled to a town that's called Eclipse, and there she kind of discovers who she is. Now, this was a good book. It was a good book. It was decent. The writing was, you know, the writing was good. I didn't relate to the characters. This is not one that I probably would reread. So I got this book from the um, oh my goodness, I'm having a brain fart. The Goodwill. I got this from the Goodwill because really it was a beautiful looking book, and I was really excited to read it. So I'm a little disappointed that it wasn't kind of what I thought it was going to be. But nevertheless, like I said, it was a good book. Some of the plot was, I don't want to say the plot was predictable because like, oh, everybody has done this. It wasn't that. It was kind of just like, oh, I can kind of see where this is definitely going to go. Like if it went any other way, I would have been shocked. But like I said, it's a good book. Okay, book number 8. This is The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. This is also a YA horror mystery thriller. And this book is about two twins, a sister and a brother. The sister dies under horrific circumstances, so the brother is propelled to find out what happened. But this means he has to attend the places his sister spent so much of her time. And this may be a problem because he is gender fluid and not generally welcome into the space. Now, this is the first book that I have read by this author. I thought the writing was really, really good. I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the main character. I can't think of his name right now, but I enjoyed him. He was very witty. I could really appreciate that. But at the same time, this book also had me a little confused at times about what was going on. The way it ended, I got it, but it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't the ending that I thought it should be. But again, I'm not the author, so the author can write the book however they wish. Like I said, it was a good book. I would definitely read something else from this author. And this was also one of the books that I got from the Goodwill, and it's also one of the books on my reading challenge. So that is checked off. Okay, so originally, book number 9 that I had on the list, or one of the books for January, was The Girls in the Stilt House by Kelly Mustang. Unfortunately, I was not able to get to that book because I ended up reading Black Flame by Gretchen Felker Martin. And I ended up reading this book because I had this book on hold at the library, and when it finally came up, I didn't want to take a chance of, um, suspending the hold on it since it had already been on hold forever. So this is funny. This is a book that I was planning to get at Barnes and Noble for my birthday last year because I absolutely love the cover. I was like, this is just an awesome cover. You know, the synopsis on the back of the book. I'm like, okay, I need to buy this. And the book, I don't know, I think it was like $20 or something like that at Barnes and Noble. Um, I tell you what, if I would have bought this book and spent my $20, I would have been upset. Do you hear me? Let me say this. I would never call or reference a book as trash or just, terrible, horrible, because I feel like just because the book may not be my cup of tea doesn't mean that it's not yours. And we could agree on 50 books, and book number 51 through 55 we could totally disagree on. So I say all that to say this was not my favorite book. This was my least favorite book. And it's one of those books where I think this may be like the lowest rated book that I've ever rated. And, I want to go into this year without giving, I mean, obviously, I rate the book like, in my journal and on like Storygraph or, those kind of things. But I don't want to give ratings necessarily on camera anymore because my rating system sometimes it's always evolving, so it's not even the same for me. So but I know my rating system and your rating system isn't the same, and I don't want to say something, or I don't want to say, well, this book is a -5, and it was on your list to read, and you think, oh well, we kind of have books in common, like the kind of the same book, so I guess I won't read it. To me, don't ever do that. If there is a book that has been on your TBR list to read or you want to read it, I don't care if the booktuber or any type of person who do this tell you the book was awful. You check it out for yourself, because what I like, what you like, what they like may be different. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of going off a little bit, but this right here wasn't my favorite book. And I get that this book was more than what meets the eye. So, some people may say, oh, well, you just didn't get, what the author was referring to, because the author kind of went deep with it. No, I got what the author was referring to. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. Um, it was it just wasn't for me. And I don't want to say too much about it, but I think the main thing that kind of just threw me off from this book was that I just felt it was just too vulgar. It that I think that's the best way I can say it. It was just a little too vulgar for me, and just not my cup of tea. Okay, guys, so that is the end of the video. That is the end of my January 2026 reading wrap up. I hope you guys have stuck around to the end of the video. If you have, would you do me a favor and please like, share, and subscribe? But know that I thank you guys. I thank you guys so much for stopping by, and hopefully I will see you guys soon. Bye.